Hey guys, welcome to my channel or welcome back to my channel. My name is SewRena or Nurse SewRena for today, and in today's video we are going to be sewing up a vintage Halloween dress with Halloween printed fabric. I am using a 100% cotton fabric that I got from my local fabric store, and I decided to dress up because we are celebrating Halloween, the perfect time to dress up, so why not? So without further ado, let's get into this really quick video on how I make this 1960s Halloween dress. I'm making a shirtwaist dress. I'm currently wearing a 1969 nurse's uniform that I made for Black History Project, and I will link the video of the making of this outfit in the card up there somewhere. I want to thank you guys so much for watching and supporting my channel. It is steadily growing, and I'm so proud of the growth that I've had this month. I've been working really hard to get you guys consistent content on a regular basis, and the response has been really, really good. So I want to thank you all for that, and we'll get into the video now. For the pattern, we're using McCall's 5774. It comes in 3 views. I'll be making view B today, but I have made view C in the past. It has beautiful bows on the neck and the sleeves, and I really adore this look. Now I want to go with something a little bit more simple for this pattern because the fabric is quite busy, and it has a very full pleated skirt, and it is quite long for the 1960s, but perfect for the cooler weather. They also provide a belt pattern, which I did ignore and made my own according to the dimensions of the buckle that I had. On the back of the pattern envelope, you'll see all the pattern pieces. It comes with 2 bodice front pieces for the blouse and 1 for the back, and 4 separate pieces for the full skirt. You'll also notice that the bodice back has a big pleat, and this gives it a very loose and blousey fit. Now for the fabric, I am using a really cute Halloween or trick-or-treat candy mid-century modern themed fabric that I got from my local fabric store. It is 100% cotton, and it is on a very light or cream colored backdrop with teal, orange, and black candy polka dots and bats, and I'll be pairing it with this teal accent fabric. Before we get into the sewing, I wanted to share what I love most about this specific shirtwaist pattern, and it's because there is no zipper closure on the side. Instead, there is a large placket in the front of the skirt hidden in the pleats that makes it easy to get on and off. So I am starting by putting on the back yoke. I already made the large pleat in the back, so I leave those in with pins. The instructions say to baste it. I don't like wasting thread for stuff like that, so I just leave the pins in and baste it that way after pressing it really nicely. I initially bought this fabric for another dress. I was gonna make a night and day dress with the yoked skirt, but decided to go on a different route when I realized that it was gonna be really cold to have such a wide open neckline in October. I did not want to be freezing or uncomfortable, even though I thought that design would be really cute with this outfit. So then I went with a shirt waist because it's tried and true, and it's perfect for, I think, all weathers. The one thing I didn't take into consideration is how busy the print was. So I ended up having less fabric than I actually needed since I switched my decision at the last minute. So I ended up adding some contrasting fabric to the skirt of the dress, so that way I could get the length that I needed, because like I said in the beginning, the skirt is really long. Even for the 60s, a lot of my patterns, the skirts start getting shorter in 1961. This particular pattern is probably longer than most of my 1950s patterns, so I did have to extend the skirt, which worked out okay for me because, like I said, it's cooler, so a longer skirt just did benefit me in the end. But that being said, the print is extremely busy, so if you ever did make a dress with this specific fabric, keep that in mind, and having a contrasting solid color really does break up some of the print. Now that the back is pretty much taken care of, it's time to mark the darts and the pleats on the front bodice. So that is what I am doing here. I am not the biggest fan of Halloween. In fact, I don't really celebrate it, and historically, like throughout my life, I haven't been celebrating it. I probably have maybe 2 or 3 childhood costumes, and apart from that, we just simply don't celebrate it. I am a big scaredy cat. I'm afraid of everything, so a whole month dedicated to being afraid is not my idea of fun, but I do like to celebrate a lot of things and in general. So I am a very festive person at heart, so I decided to make a dress that's more my style in terms of color scheme, with the cute pastel bright colors, and it has a small spooky print like with bats and stuff on it. So at first glance it's not very Halloweeny, I guess, but when you get up close you can really see the print, and that is definitely on theme and festive. This will probably be my last Halloween make for a while, maybe for another 2 years or so, unless I can find another mid-century modern or very cute looking print fabric, and that might change things. But until then, this is going to be it. Here I am seaming the facing to the front because it has a self-attached facing, which I really like. So all you have to do is fold it over on itself and it instantly has a facing. I love shirtwaist dresses like this. I also base it on the collar. After this, the bodice is nearly done. So very quick and simple to do. I enjoy this pattern a lot, especially when you're kind of running last minute. Halloween is in a couple weeks, but I want to be able to wear this multiple times. Now it's time for buttons. I am going to dye some plastic buttons with some Dritz synthetic dye in sandstone. I couldn't find any buttons in my stash that matched the dress. I wanted it to be blue initially, but I didn't have any blue buttons, so I decided to dye some because the white ones made the dress look a little dingy since it's cream or off tan. So this is what the dyed buttons look like compared to the original white buttons. I want to say that I didn't actually end up using these buttons and did covered buttons instead, because the bodice needed blue after I put the blue lining or border on the skirt. So now I'm going to teach you a really simple way to mark your pleats, and I like to use 2 different marking methods to mark the lines. So you have broken lines and you have solid lines. I like to use one color for one line and another color for the other, so that way you know which color to bring to the other. So for this purpose, we're going to be using the red for the dotted lines, and then we're going to use yellow chalk for the solid lines. You could do 2 different sets of pins for this, or you can use chalk and a marking pen. Or if you have only one method of marking, you could also use a marking pen or chalk for one line and then snip the other within the seam allowance. So that is that. It's a whole lot of words, but basically that's how I flawlessly apply my pleats so that everything's in the right place. Once you're done marking all of your pleats, it's time to sew the skirt sections together. I did this with French seams. They're my preferred method of doing any kind of seam finishing. Also, my serger needs to be rethreaded because one of my cones ran out, so I'm doing this because I don't feel like rethreading the machine either. So now I'm adding on the accent border to lengthen the skirt since I didn't have enough fabric, and I'm using that teal accent. The teal is actually scrap, so it works out. I didn't have to buy any extra fabric for this pattern at all, but also with this very thick border, that's why I had to introduce covered buttons to the bodice of the dress, so that way we could get some more of that color up top and balance out the dress. If I had to do it again, I would have done some trim in the same color to the sleeve, but the sleeve hem was already built in. There's a cuff and I didn't want to cut that off. Now I'm finishing the hem of the skirt by whip stitching on the back side of the skirt to properly adhere the border. After making these few adjustments to the design of the dress. It kind of flows really quickly after this. So I made this dress in about a day and a half. This might be difficult or impossible to see, but I wanted the markings to be as light as possible so that way they didn't show up after the dress was made. So I'm going to pleat the yellow lines and bring them to the red lines. And once I do that, I'm gonna place a pin, and I will continue to do that until I've wrapped around the entire skirt. And that's why I like to use two different colors. You can use two different color pins. I have two different color pins now. I have yellow and white pins. So technically I could have skipped the marking and just used my pins instead, bringing the yellow to the white pins and so on and so forth. But instead I just used chalk, because then you don't have to worry about your pins falling out and losing your spot. Since Halloween isn't really huge in my house, I kind of use October as a prep for the holidays, since I do like to go hard for Christmas. But after this dress, I plan on running out to get materials to make one of my kids' Halloween costumes, because the baby still doesn't care what he does. And now my toddler, the older one, wants to be something that I can't particularly make in a short amount of time. She wants to be an eagle. So we're going to buy her pattern, and she did switch and change her mind. At first I was going to make her a witch costume. She wanted to be a pumpkin witch, and now she wants to be an eagle. So I am not going to waste the time making a costume that she might hate later or change her mind. I would rather just buy something really quickly and she can just play dress up with the costume throughout the year or whatever. So now I am making my belt. I am sewing on some sew-in interfacing to the belt. I basically got the dimensions for this by doubling the width of the belt buckle and adding a seam allowance. I did a 1/4 inch seam allowance for this one. So once you, based on your interfacing, I'm using a midweight interfacing or featherweight interfacing for this. And then I'm going to fold the belt in half, right sides together, and sew down the seam allowance. The weight of your interfacing doesn't really matter, and the webbing doesn't matter either, because the dress is already fitted at the waist. So this isn't really cinching much. So now I am sewing a triangle shape at the end, cutting off the seam allowance, and we're gonna flip it using this loop turner straw thing. So you slide the straw all the way into the end. Then you're gonna wanna use the dowel that it came with, but I lost mine. So I'm using a fabric pencil to turn it inside out. And there you have it. Press it and add your eyelets. I like sewn eyelets, but you can definitely do like the metal eyelets for yours. Once you are done punching the holes, then you can add it to the buckle of your choice. I use the fabric cover buckle, and if you would like to see a tutorial on how I do that, check out the card above. It was really simple and is a nice addition to any dress. So now we are coming to an end. Thank you guys so much for watching. I truly appreciate it. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram if you want to see what I'm up to in real time. If you could like this video, it would help support my channel so much. But if you would like to support me further, you can tip me on Ko-fi. The link will be in the description below. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Bye.